Love it, Scotty. Yeah, you know what? When we were talking about business to thirds, one of the things that you said early on about business to thirds is guys that are athletes really get the concept of business to thirds. They live it, they deal with it. That's how they practice, that's how they play. And Phil is in the United States, we have several different conferences for universities and colleges, and one of the best in the nation is called the Big Ten. And let's not talk about the fact that there are 13 different schools in the Big Ten. That doesn't really matter, right? At one point, there were only 10. And Phil was a standout wrestler for the University of Michigan, which I would imagine even in Australia, people have heard about Michigan Wolverines. So Phil lettered in wrestling for 4 years there, started a really cool career in the mortgage business and grew and grew and grew. And at 26 years old was the vice president of sales and did exceedingly well for himself and even better for his company. And then one day, as luck has it, he got some news that he didn't really like. And like all great entrepreneurs, made one decision. And that decision was, I'm going to bet on me. So he went out, looked at businesses and all kinds of different opportunities, and had an uncle that was in the insurance space and said, Unc, what do you like about it? And one of the conversations was the idea of residual income, right? So last time we talked a little bit about time duplication, which had the idea of money duplication. And there's no better way to duplicate money than residual income. So Phil
Sure.
got involved with State Farm Insurance and started an agency from scratch, spent 2 years in their program, opened his agency, did that for a year, and learned some things that weren't necessarily an ideal fit. And he said, I'm going to bet on me again, and opened an independent agency called PKIG, Phil Klein Insurance Group. And he did that in 2011 and had an amazing run, growing by leaps and bounds. Ended up finding a suitor. Actually, I don't even want to tell you how many suitors there were, but a suitor, and joined forces with a much larger organization about not quite a year ago, and still with them, heading up, leading the charge of PKIG, and doing amazing things every day. He's a great example of sugar and cream. He's also a great example of business in thirds. And I'm fortunate to call him a client, but I'm even more fortunate to call him a friend. So allow me to introduce, with all the proper accolades, Mr. Phil Klein. Hi, Phil.
Thank you so much. That's I couldn't have said it better myself. That's a very generous introduction, and I can't appreciate it more, Terry. We've done a lot together over the years, and I'm just so appreciative of that. That was a great introduction. I'm thank you very much.
Dude. It's easy. Thank you for being so easy to gush about, man. That's the part, dude. You're an awesome human being. I hosted an event this morning, and as I was introducing a couple of the speakers, I said, what I really look for in people is they have the right mind and the right mindset and the right brain and the ability to do things. They have the right heart, right? They care, they give a shit, whatever the case may be, however you want to say it, but they are concerned about the well-being of others. And equally important to those two is they have the right motor, they have the drive. And you check all three of those boxes in an amazing way. I don't know if that's business a third, Scotty, but I'll tell you what, mind, heart, and motor, that seems like three things to me, bud. So those are good. That's a good business of thirds right there. So PK, let's kick it all the
Yeah,
way back, right? You
sure.
coming from the state of New York, going
Yeah.
to, arguably, the University of Michigan is the only university in the country, if not the world, that ranks in the top 10 of universities for the multitude of colleges and disciplines that they have, right? Whether we're talking about the medical program or law school or business school or general education, they're like the best of the best across all the boards. How'd you end up getting like to U of M from New York? Tell us that story, because I think that's probably an impressive one.
Well, I grew up in New York, and I actually grew up in a diehard Michigan household, just because my dad never went there, but he was just a diehard Michigan fan. And, academically, I would tell you this. Academically, maybe I wasn't deserving to get into that university, but because I was a rambunctious little kid that my parents wanted to calm down, they got me into a sport called wrestling. And because they got me into a sport called wrestling, and in kindergarten I started that. Because I started in kindergarten, and because I went all the way through high school and won some state championships and all-American honors, the University of Michigan gave me an opportunity to go there in college. And so when I was a senior in college, I signed a letter of intent to go to the University of Michigan and wrestle there. And it was one of the best. It was actually the best decision of my life, not because of the wrestling side was one side, but what wrestling taught me. Obviously there's not a professional wrestling if you don't want to go into like the WWE or one of those sort of things. But what wrestling taught me, as far as what I took to the business world from there, was absolutely phenomenal. Wrestling is a sport where it's a team sport, but actually it's an individual sport when you actually get on the mat. It's one of those sports where, you can't rely on anybody else once you get out there. There's no off days. There's no days that you can take off. If you're not on that day, you're going to get your butt kicked. And so it taught me a lot about who I was, and it was taught me about who I wanted to be, and it taught me about how was I going to in the future make something for myself, because nobody was going to do it for me. As my father-in-law would say, nobody's coming to save you. So, getting to the University of Michigan in wrestling was a culmination in that sport. But realistically, when I look back on it, it really was a springboard to the rest of my life. It was a springboard to my business life. It was a springboard to who I am as a person today and why I think I'm actually successful today. So getting to the University of Michigan was wonderful. I am a diehard Michigan fan, obviously, and would do anything for that university. But realistically, it taught me those skills that we actually in business all want, and we try to adapt to, is that self-preservation. Nobody's coming to save you. You have to do it for yourself. So those are the things that really stood out to me at the University of Michigan, and so I really credit my time there, winning a couple of varsity letters there. I was an outstanding high school wrestler, an average college wrestler, but just being lucky enough to be exposed to that type of coaching, that type of athletics, it really taught me what I wanted to do in business.
I love that, and I think that's a great jumping off point. And I think about not a lot of people know this, Phil, and you and I have worked together for 3 years. I don't know that you know this. I wrestled in my freshman year in high school for about 2.5 weeks. And I've never had so much disappointment and harder practices, right, in my life. Those dudes are crazy. So, like, the discipline, the focus, and the perseverance that it takes to forget about win state championships, even to get on the mat is kind of crazy, right? So how do you stay motivated to do that day in and day out? Because I think there's an interesting parallel in terms of what people go through in the entrepreneurial world.
Right. I mean, look, entrepreneurial, I'm a good, I started my own business. Every day when you're an entrepreneur, there are some days where you want to, you think you've won, the championship, and there are days you want to jump off the cliff, right? And so And that's just a normal process being an entrepreneur. What wrestling taught me was it's the process. It's the process that it's not about, what's going on. It's you have to enjoy the process as it's going on. If you're not the type of person that, wants to enjoy that process and be that person that tries to push yourself, the objective every day is to try to push yourself to the edge, and then just a little bit further, right? You push yourself to that edge and then you try to go just a little further. That's where growth happens, right? And so that's what was taught to me at a young age in the wrestling world. And I took that in the business world. There were days in the business world where I wanted to just, obviously hang it up, just like we all do. We have days that, you know, don't go your way, or that you're whatever, you want to say, this is it, this is how I end, this is how the whole story ends. But it's that internal drive to say we just have to push ourselves, and it's just that little extra, and that little extra is where the growth happens. That's where, and it's winning on the margins. It's winning where that little space is. People don't really realize it. Everybody gets highs and lows, and I know when we talk about those three functions, has the highs and the lows. It's that middle, and winning on the margins, and just going a little bit above and beyond is where the growth happens. It's where that really the men separate themselves from the boys, or whatever you want to call it. And so I learned that from an early age, that nobody was coming to save me. I had to do it myself. And you have to be self-motivated, and you also have to be self-motivated to the point where that days are going to be bad, and you just have to understand that the overall goal is what's at heart. You know what I mean? You have to understand that pushing forward is what you have to do.
I want to get back to the winning on the margins for sure, because I know that that's a core principle of who you are and how you've built your business. But
Yeah.
before we jump into that, I also know that you're a follow your gut kind of guy, right? I look
Yep.
at, and we talked about it earlier. You got your head, you got your heart, and you got your motor, right? And the motor comes from that gut. So talk to me a little bit about how, as an entrepreneur, you learn to trust that gut instinct, because I think that's really important, because a lot of people have an idea, then they second guess it, then they talk to some people, then they fourth guess it, right? How do you just say, you know what, this thing knows who I am and what I'm supposed to do?
Well, I subscribe to a fail forward type of attitude, and also what I would call a ready, fire, aim, right? Everybody else, I think, like, goes ready, aim, 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 fire. I'm more of a ready, fire, aim type of personality. I like to make in-flight corrections. I like to get an idea. I like to understand what's going on with the idea. I'm not reckless. That's not what I would say. Reckless is not what it is. But to I like to make decisions, and then I say, I'm going to try this out. And if it doesn't work, I'll back off. But also, what happens to me is most of the ideas do work out. It's just that you have to correct it as it goes along. And what I find that was different for me than most people was that they tried to make it perfect before they executed it. And for me, I tried to get a good idea. I tried to say, this is the idea I have, and I'm going to try this. And if I have to make in flight corrections, I will do so. And eventually, yes, there are ideas, obviously, that I was like, this was terrible, did not work. Oh my God, let's go backwards. However, it was because I was already trying it. I didn't want to get paralyzed, paralysis by analysis, I guess is the best way to describe it. So my whole philosophy in that whole area was I'm more of a ready, fire, aim type of person. I come up with an idea, or wanted to do something, and I was like, I'm going to try it. I'm going to try to start down the road, because doing something first is way better than just not doing anything. And so that was how we started the business. It was like we didn't know what we were doing. To be honest, when I started PKIG, everybody asked me how I became so successful in PKIG. How did you do all these things? And one of the things I always say to everybody is, I was just too stupid to know I couldn't do it. So I know that sounds really weird, but we just kept on going. and, solving problems as they came along. And that doesn't mean that we didn't make mistakes, and it doesn't mean that we didn't have a lot of things that went wrong. It just means that you have to decide sometime that you're just going to do it, and you'll have to make some in-flight corrections. And that's part of being an entrepreneur. If you just keep on waiting for everything to be perfect, you're going to be waiting for a long time. You're going to be waiting for a long time.
I love that analogy, right? I talk about the idea like we're going to build the plane as we're flying the plane. In fact, that's kind of the agreement Scotty and I came to. What are we doing? I don't know. We'll figure it out. Let's just start doing it, right? Because those in-flight corrections are so important. Put it out there, get the feedback, adjust to the feedback, make it better, right? And do it again. And it's a continuous cycle. Scotty, what what do you think of the idea of what Phil just said about I was too stupid to know that I couldn't do it? Does that resonate with you at all, Scotty?
100%, right? So, this is where we're a little bit similar, Phil. I was a D class student, so there was only upside for me, right?
Right.
So everything for me was good. So, but some people are really academic and really smart, right? And I think they get that. Well, but what if I fail thing, And in fact, I just did a session the other day with a heap of MBA students, studying their Masters of Business Administration. And I'm sitting there going, great foundation, but I don't have any degrees at all. I mean, I've got nothing. I was just, school of hard knocks, just go out and do it, work it out, pivot, change, work it out, pivot, change, work it out. Just a lot of self-confidence that I probably had the ability to do it. So this is where you and I are very similar, right? Just go and start and work that stuff out. Set your goals, set them big, and go out and strive. So totally relate to your story there. And I love the sporting bit too, right? That discipline of knowing you have to train and turn up and get your butt kicked from time to time, as well as the glory that comes with the wins. You're not going to win all the time, but there's that bit in the middle, that middle third, I call it, where things can go either way depending on your preparation or your attitude. Hey, sometimes just luck, but there's a lot of opportunities in the middle, and that's what successful people tap into, right? Not the easy comes, not the easy goes, or the easy wins, easy loses, but the bit in the middle that goes, depending on your attitude, your discipline, whatever it is. So I love the way you said that. So what's probably the, I guess as a question for you, by the way, what's the one thing that sport taught you and your win-loss ratio, I guess your strike rate, success or failure rate, what's the one thing sport taught you from your early days that you still use today?
I mean, honestly, to be honest with you, nobody's coming to save you. Anything that you get in life, you're going to have to do it. If you're waiting for somebody else to do it for you, or you're waiting for somebody else, or you blame somebody else, or you whatever. The one thing that sport taught me, especially wrestling, it wasn't a team. It's a team sport, but it really isn't. It's kind of an individual sport. I know basketball and football; those are team sports. Wrestling is a team sport where you can, but it's. I was taught from a very early age that if you're going to succeed or fail, it's going to fall on your shoulders. And at the end of the day, you can make all the excuses you want. You can say, this happened to me and this happened to me. And, oh, my God, this was an obstacle and this was an obstacle. And that's why I didn't succeed. But really, nobody cares. Really, to be honest with you, nobody cares. Either nobody's coming to save you. You have to do it yourself. And self-discipline to me is one of the major, if not the most major attributes I look for in a successful business person or somebody that I want to hire. Self-discipline is something, I can give you the tools. I can't build the house. You have to be able to build the house. So sport really taught me from a younger age. One, you have to work hard. You have to set goals. Goals are important. And there are three types of goals, right? There's obtainable goals that are like, hey, these are easy ones, the things that should happen right away. Like, let's do this. There's goals that you're like, okay, these are 1-year goals, 2-year goals. These are things that I know I can do. And then there's the stretch goals. There's the goals that, you know what, I'm going to stretch myself to the max. And if I do, here's where I think I can go, right? ability gets you certain places. But at the end of the day, you need to be able to have some goals in mind that are going to take you. And like I said, my coach always told me it's about winning on the margins every day. It's not about the success. Talent gets you, so far. And if you're not talented, that won't get you so far. But it's the middle. It's the people in that middle that are hardworking and can separate themselves and really win on those margins that take themselves from that middle area to the upper area and beyond. And, I think hard work beats talent most of the time. Most of the time, hard work will beat talent. Talent is obviously important. But so what sport taught me was you don't have to be the best. You don't have to be whatever. You have to be the hardest working guy in the room. And you have to be able to say to yourself, where am I winning on the margins?
Awesome.
I love that. I love that thought. It reminds me, Will Smith is famous for saying, I'm not the smartest, I'm not the most talented, but I'll outwork anybody. If you and I are on a treadmill, right? This is Will Smith talking. One of two things, and we're having a competition to see who can last on the treadmill the longest. One of two things is going to happen. You're going to get off before I do, or I'm going to die on a treadmill, right? And it's about that hard work and that effort and that diligence. And, you've put that to amazing work. I know that early on with PKIG, the hardest thing about getting into the insurance business is getting the carriers to be able to let you represent them. And
Sure.
and I know you're like, I don't want to say your best carrier, but the carrier that you have the most business with. How many years did they blow you off and turn you down before they finally said okay? And now you're like, you go hang out with their CEO because you've done so much work with them.
They turned me down for 5 straight years. I called them 5 straight years. They turned me down. I kept on telling what I could do for them, what I couldn't do, what I would do for them. And they just wouldn't appoint me. And in the 6th year, they said, well, you're a persistent little, what. And so we'll come meet you. And when they did, they fell in love with me. And, the story goes, 5 years later, I'm one of their top agents in the whole state of Michigan, if not the country. And they regret every day that they see me, they say, I don't know why we didn't appoint you 5 years earlier. And I said, it was just meant to be that way. This is the way it was meant to be. And I don't hold any regrets for it, but you have to be persistent. No is, by the way, no in business and no in athletics and no, whatever that means. No is part of the gig. I mean, if you can't accept no as an answer, this isn't for you. No has to be an answer that you're comfortable with accepting. But when I say accepting, I don't mean accepting as in you give up. I'm just saying accepting as in that's just part of the journey. No is part of the journey. And I say that sometimes to my people in my office. No is part of the journey. Don't let that be the end of the journey. It's part of the journey. So getting a no is actually just one step closer to a yes. But I always tell my people, no is part of the journey. And if you can't accept that, you're not in the right area.
I love that, right? And I tell people all the time, no is my second favorite word in sales, right? I know what a yes is. Thank you. Give me all the yeses. I'll take those. I know what a no is, and that gets you closer to the yes, like you just said. But it's the I don't knows or the think it over or we'll get back to you or give us a week or a month. All that. There's a great book called Hope is Not a Strategy, right? All those things that aren't a yes or a no fall into that hope category. And you got agents in your business. Scotty had sales reps in his business. Other companies have reps that are talking about, look at my pipeline. I have all these things. No, man, you got a bunch of strokes that were too chicken to tell you no, or you didn't ask hard enough to get to that no. And now you think you got this amazing pipeline, but you got a bunch of BS sitting in an Excel spreadsheet. That's
right.
What you have.
Exactly.
And we've talked about it because we work closely enough together that we know, like when I say that, you know exactly what agents I'm thinking about. No, we're going to have a great month, right? I got 80,000 on the books. No, dude, you got 7,000 on the books. There's a big
Right.
difference. So
Right.
that's always fun, man. I love it. So,
Hope is not a strategy.
hope is not a strategy, and it is not in your CRM. There is no funnel that says, I hope I get this. That's not how that works.
Right.
So I love it. And you've mentioned winning on the margins a couple of times. Scotty looks at this as the hot market, as a middle market, and a cold
Mhm.
market. And he'll say that if you're in the hot market, you should win a fair amount, like a large percentage of that. And if you're in the cold market, you're going to win a very small percentage of that. You're still going to win, but not a
Yeah.
lot, right? But it's that middle market. And so that middle market, is that what you mean when you say winning on the margins? Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely. So in my world, in insurance, right? I'm in insurance. Price is the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk. It wants to talk about, but let's just face facts. It is. So what I tell my salespeople, if there are certain in our world, we when we price out, home, auto, or commercial insurance, right? If we're 10% lower, we're going to win those accounts every time. We're going to win those accounts. And if we're 10% or 20% higher, we're probably going to lose those accounts every single time. It's those accounts that were almost the same price or very similar to the price they're paying that we have to win. Those are the accounts we have to win. That's where we have to shine. That's where we have to talk about our service, what we do, why PKIG, why our company. That's winning on the margins, because I say to them, if we're 10% lower and we win that account, did you make the sale or did the price make the sale? Right. And I'm not so fond of that. That's great. And obviously, if we're 20 or 30% higher, I expect us to lose that sale. But it's those accounts where we're very similar, and it's the service, it's what we do as a company that make the difference. And that's where that's my passion. That's where I love the sales. It's the margins. It's where we're saying we were equal to what they were shopping around. It was equal to what they had before, but we're a better service. We have maybe a little bit better product, and we convince them, and we'll not only convince them, but come through with what we said we would deliver. But it's those margins that make a difference. And that's, by the way, in anything we do, anything, whether it's advertising, whether it's whether it's marketing, advertising, or it's the sale, it's that margins that we make a difference. So that's what I look at. It's like, in my business, price is a big deal. It just happens to be that way. But like I said, if the price is 10% lower, it's easy. You're 10% lower most of the time. You can't make that sale. You got problems. And if you're 20% higher, I understand it. It's where it's kind of like in that middle area. That's where the magic is. That's where the magic is. You either go to the bottom or you're going to go to the top.
Carrie Constant, you're right. This guy knows his stuff and is worthy of all kinds of mad love. Appreciate that comment, lady. All right. So I think that's awesome, right? If you're close, right, on either side of the equation, you got to pick up as many of those opportunities as humanly possible. I wanna rewind. I want to hit that rewind button. I want to take you back to June 1st-ish of 2011. You are fresh into PKIG land, right? Phil Klein Insurance Group starts June 1 of 2011. And you're looking at maybe a desk and some walls. And how do you start? What was how did you identify maybe hot markets or cold markets or warm markets? But how do you go from, well, I just left a decent career opportunity with a multinational large organization, and now I'm me doing my thing? What does that journey look like?
Well, I mean, look, it's a short and a long journey, right? So you got to kind of break it up into little bits of time. So when I broke away from State Farm, that happened to be the company I was with. I mean, you have to have a little bit of confidence. I mean, confidence goes a long way. I'm not trying to tell you that I'm a conceited person, but I'm a person that I feel confident in my own abilities. And one of the things that when I was at State Farm, I realized, what do they provide me? Not the leads. They provide me a brand name. And I was like, well, listen, if I can get through that and I can create my own brand name, then people would want to do business with me. So it's almost like when you start on June 11th, whatever it was, June 1st of 2011, it was that vision of what can I build that's special. And I wanted to build something that when I said I was going to go out, I wanted to build something that was not just great for me, but I wanted to bring people along with me. I started with not just me. I think when you build a good organization, you build companies, you have to think about if somebody once told me money doesn't lead, it follows, right? Money doesn't lead, it follows. So if you go into a business with, I want to make as much money as I possibly can, obviously that's just everything. But if money's the only driving factor, those are, to me, the businesses that have problems. I wanted to build something special for myself, for other families, for, other employees. I wanted to build something special for other people. So to me, I was like, let me find a way to make other people successful, and my success will come second. But my success when it comes second will probably be very large. So money doesn't lead to me, it follows. I've always subscribed to that. And it really has always served me well. I am a big culture person. I'm a big person about how do I make other people better around me? And once the people are better around me, it's always going to come back to me, you know? And so when I started from scratch, I didn't know what I was doing. I got to be honest with you. I really did not know what I was doing. I just knew that I had to do something. And I felt my gut that this was the right path. I knew I was in the right business. I got a lot of good training at State Farm. And I felt to myself that, hey, this is the path I want to be. But realistically, it's not even about insurance. It's how do I change a few people's lives, make them more successful, their families more successful, and in turn, I think it will come back to me. That's really how PKIG started.
I love that. And you have a long history of breathing into other people or jumping first, right? You'll
Yeah.
like, listen, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna trust that you're gonna reciprocate. And
I say that
I
to an employee
love
when they come. Whenever I hire an employee, I said, listen, I'm going to jump first. However, I expect a lot from you, but trust me, I will be the first to jump. We are going to do this, but I'll be the first to give. I don't expect. I give first, then I expect.
Yeah, I have witnessed that in a few different roles that I've had with you, and it's so very very true. Scotty, I see our friend Carrie Constant wrote, "Money doesn't lead; it follows." What do you think of that sentiment, Scotty? Have you seen that to be true?
100%. I mean, a lot of people come to me with their goals and all sorts of things, and most people have this money mindset. But I go, well, actually, that's an outcome, that's a result. It's, as Terry says, it follows. It's the actions, the activities that'll achieve everything that you want financially. If you achieve those, well, then you'll achieve some money. So the more of those goals you need to achieve if you want more money. Really simple formula. There's achieving the goals doesn't even guarantee the money, but so if you have this money mindset, it's a really bad mindset. You've got to have that proactive mindset to go out and do what's required if you want to be successful. But one thing I do know, and this is exactly what Phil's saying, is that if you do something, something's going to happen. If you set your goals and keep doing something, you're going to get wiser and smarter and achieve more as you grow and develop year in, year out. And that's basically what he did. And I mean, I'm sitting here listening to Phil, and I'm thinking he's now talking business judo. He's now talking sugar and cream. He's talking about all the systems in the book, right? Hasn't quite hit the rule of 100, but the business of thirds is why you're on here, right? And I'm going, wow, this is awesome. So he's nailing so much of this book. It's just crazy. So you're 100% right. He's all over it, Terry. He's totally all over it. Yeah,
He's the perfect example of it. He really
yeah,
is, and he's done it.
absolutely. And he's saying things like, exactly the way the business of thirds is constructed. He's saying it exactly the same way in his own words. So he's the perfect example of the business of thirds. I'm not sure if you're recognizing that or not, Phil. Are you recognizing that?
Absolutely. I mean, when I read parts of your book when Terry had sent to me, even though I had obviously never seen it before I did, I'm like, well, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what I did. I didn't know that I was doing it at that time, but when I saw parts of your book, in the last few weeks, I was like, wow, this is exactly some of the things that I did subconsciously, but it did work out the same way. It's amazing.
Well, it's not
Well, what I
amazing.
love.
It's not
Go
amazing that
ahead.
it worked because the systems work, right? So,
Right.
Phil, you were working your systems and it was working, and that's the bottom line. So, it's music to my ears when I hear and see someone who's been through that journey. It's so good.
Yeah.
I know Phil's got a hard stop coming up in a couple of minutes. So I want to make sure that we're respectful of his time and his energy and most importantly grateful for both of those things. But I do have one last question as a business owner, right? And I've heard many people say this business would be great if it wasn't for the people, you know? And so people are an amazing asset and an amazing challenge. So over the years, right? Whether we're talking way back when you were the VP of sales of a mortgage company, or more recently as the head of PKIG in the insurance space, um, the business of thirds. You can look at salespeople in the business of thirds. We sometimes talk about the 80-20 rule. Scotty likens the business of thirds to the 80-20 rule in terms of, it's an interesting analogy. It's not the same thing by any stretch of the imagination, but every business has a top third group of the sales professionals. They have a bottom third of the
Yep.
sales professionals. I'm curious, how do you manage the top third or lead the top third? Because management isn't your style. You're a leader, not a manager, and I say that with the utmost respect. Um, and how do you deal with the lower third? What do you do there?
Well, I mean, I'm going to be very honest, right? So in business, you have your ABC, right? So your top, your middle, and your third, and your A players in your business are always going to be your A players. Those are the people that are self motivated. They don't really need a lot. What they need is the tools. They're going to build the house. You just need to give them a little bit of tools. You need to give them a little bit of guidance, obviously some resources, and they're self motivated, and they're going to go on their own. They're going to do successful things because they have that ability. Everybody wants A players, right? If I could give myself only A players, or any business could give themselves only A players, let's face facts. Your C players are your players that you're giving the tools to, and for some reason it's not connecting. They're not building the house. They might be lazy. There's outside influences. They make excuses. For me, my business was built on the B players and trying to be A players. You got your B players that are people that, they have the right mentality. They're hardworking people. They may not understand the business. They may not understand what's going on, but they're very coachable. Coachable is a big word in my industry. Coachable. You have to be coachable. You have to be able to take direction. That doesn't mean that you have to follow every last thing that I say. You have to be able to find your own way. But those B players are the people that you're going to concentrate. A players do them. They're always going to rise. That's the cream. They're always going to rise to the top. And what you have to do in business, to be honest with you, is you have to be able to say, is this a C player? Can I get my B players to become A players? Yes. Can I get my C players to become B players, eventually A players? If the answer is I don't think so, unfortunately, you have to maybe sometimes cut the cord. It's those B players that you're like, are they going to stay B players forever, or can I coach them / make them A players? And so to me, in a business where most people, they always try to concentrate on the A players. And I do too, don't get me wrong, but it's the B players that are that I really try to concentrate on, coach, because I'm a coach. I want to get them to become A players, the people that have the talent, people that can go further. The C players, to be honest with you, C is just passing. So obviously they can stay at your company and they can do things while the company needs it. But those are the first people, to be honest with you, when things are not right, those are the first people that you look to eliminate. I mean, and that's just the reality. I always say we live in a democracy. We don't work in one. And so that's unfortunate, but B players are where I concentrate. A players I try to develop to get better, but B players I'm trying to move them up into that A category.
Well, and that to me is like the definition of winning on the margins, right? If you can move a B player to an A player, that's the margin, right? And I love that. All right, man. One last time, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you or PKIG? I know we got it popped up on the screen, but I love the fact that you got a 4-letter URL. So go ahead and spit that out.
It's just pkig.com. And I'd be happy, by the way, happy to answer any questions, happy to help anybody in any way. Love the book, Scotty. You guys are onto something special. The funny thing is, I look at some of those things that you put in that book, and I'm like, I didn't read it, but without knowing, when I didn't read it, meaning years ago, without knowing it, I think the common denominator is it always flows the same way. So some of the things I was like, wow, those are things I did year in and year out. I built my business that way. Whether you talk about, the business of thirds, ABC, whatever you're talking about, it always seems to just fall to that thirds. It always seems to fall to the top, the middle, the bottom. And to me, it always seems like the winning on the margins, where you can get the middle to the top, that's where the wins are. No matter what business you're in, if you can get the middle to the top is always the top, the bottom is always the bottom. And if you can get that middle, whatever that is, if you can get that middle to somehow become the top, that's where you win. That's special.
Yes, music to my ears, mate. You're talking business judo, you're talking the business of thirds, and you're talking sugar and cream. You're all over it. There's a reason why you have been successful.
Yeah.
True story. True story.
I'm not sure if we got time to answer this. We got time to answer that one from Brenda, because you got a host.
Sure.
What works best that you noticed to close the gap? I'm not exactly sure, but I'll have to run with your interpretation of that question.
Close the gap from the middle to the top.
Must be something around that, I would suggest.
Yeah, let's answer that. I like the understanding you shared there.
Okay. Well, what works, motivation to me, it's self-motivation. That's what closes the gap. I think you can take a person who is self-motivated, who wants to succeed. We all say the same thing, that, motivation beats anything else. We can teach everything. So what closes the gap? You got to find the people that are hungry, people that want to be better than they are today. You want to find the person who says, this is where I am today. That's not where I want to be tomorrow. That's okay. That's okay to not be where you want to be tomorrow. But those people that are self-motivated, that are hungry, that want to exceed, that are eager to learn, and coachable. That's a big word in my industry. You got to be coachable, right? It doesn't mean that I'm perfect when I coach you. It doesn't mean I'm perfect. You have to interpret some things I say. However, I look at people who are eager to learn and are coachable and are self-motivated. That's how you close the gap between the middle and the top.
Yeah, totally. Sugar and cream, you're all over it. Looking for those sugary, motivated people who want to be stirred up, coachable, trainable. They're looking for that what's next opportunity. You're all over it.
They want growth, right? They want to be, they're here, but they know they want to be here, and they're willing to do the work to bridge that gap.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not a secret the funny part about everything is it's not a secret formula. It's really right in front of your face. But most people just don't see it. It's, you got to be self-motivated. You got to be driven. You got to, you got to want it more than the guy next to you. It's just the bottom line. You just have to.
Yeah.
You've got to want it more than the person coaching you to get it too, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than trying to help somebody get to where they want to go, and you want it more than they do.
Yeah.
I ain't nobody got time for that, right? So that internal motivation,
Yeah.
Phil, is so important, right? They got to have that. I talked about it, right? They got to have that motor. So I love it, man. Listen, I don't want to talk about the ginormous man crush I have on you, right? We got a little bromance going on, so I don't want to get into all that. But thank you. I appreciate you coming on and being an example of what Scotty has shared so eloquently, so pragmatically, so perfectly. I'm trying to put this up in a way that the light's not smashing it so hard, right? Thank you, Scotty. Hook me up like that. That's good stuff. In when I gave a presentation today on the 5 systems of successful people. It was the first time I've ever presented like in a keynote style somebody's material that wasn't mine, and it was very well received. And what I told people is it's simple pragmatism, right? Scotty took what works and what's repeatable and scalable from a working perspective and then simplified it into 5 systems. And Phil, you're an outstanding example of it, man. And I appreciate you, brother. I really do.
I appreciate it. Your book was amazing. I really appreciate it. It confirmed some of the things I already thought, right? So, unfortunately, I didn't read it 10 years ago or whenever it was written. But, when I was reading it, I was like, wow, I kind of do this. So it's spot on.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, PK. Go do PK things. I'll look forward to seeing you in real life soon. Scotty, Phil should buy me the book. You're right, Carrie. We should make sure that Phil buys that book. I agree. You should get a copy.
Let's buy it for Terry. Let's buy it for the staff and make them read it.
There you go. Right. We'll have them do a little book report. That'll make Scotty
Well,
happy.
We'll do our sales meeting, once a month sales meeting. We'll make it one of the reading assignments for the sales team.
You know what? Honestly, if each member took just one section of the book and did a report on it, right? So not everybody's stuck reading an entire book, because I know people are busy and reading's no longer as fundamental as it once was. But
right.
It's a great way to get that shared learning going around too. That's important.
Absolutely.
Love it. And somebody's going to hear some stuff in a section they didn't read and be like, wait, I got to go and read that section. So it makes them less responsible initially and more proactive eventually. And I like that part.
Well, look, Phil, I'm not sure where else we're going, but we could talk all day about your journey, mate. It's so good. Yeah. Totally awesome to have you here and sharing with everybody that journey that you went on. And Terry is right. We could have had you on for a few of the systems, right? But
yeah,
look, it's so awesome. The business of thirds, he got you in because of your sporting background, the sporting analogy, and totally you've taken that through your business career. And obviously you've had that really successful journey and come out the other side. So it's so good to hear people actually go through the journey and come out. And
I would tell you it works.
Yeah.
The darkest of days, they turn into light.
Yeah, 100%. That's business judo, positive mental attitude.
Exactly.
The book starts with attitude, finishes with attitude, and in the middle is a bunch of systems. So
you just got to keep believing, and you got to, in your heart. Entrepreneurship is about heart. It really, at the end of the day, you got to follow your gut and you got to be confident in yourself. Realistically, that's what it's got to be.
But on that note, we might wrap up. Any other final thoughts, Terry? Otherwise, we'll close up.
No, I'm just again, I'm grateful for the guy, the man, the leader that he is, and what he's done, and just who he is. He's He's everything you see here and about 28% more. So awesome fella right
I
there.
appreciate that.
You two remind me so much of each other in how you carry yourselves and how you serve other people. Is it's not even a coincidence that I work with both of you, right?
Servant
Thank
leadership.
you, Brenda.
All right. Well, on that note, thanks everyone for coming. Thank you so much for coming, Phil, and sharing a story, and Terry for moderating and sharing once again about the 5 systems of successful people. So if you haven't got yourself the copy yet, by all means, go out and have a read. It's something I wish I had read when I was 20. But anyway, I experienced it. Now I'm teaching other people.
Awesome.
So, all right. Well,
Thank you, Terry.
good night or good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're from. And we'll see you all in the next one. The next one, we're going to be talking about the rule of 100. So thanks, everyone, for coming.
Everybody.
All right. Thank you.
All right. I'll end this live.